MAXWALD Recovery Winch. Training video. Dear customers, firefighters, and users. With this video, you will receive a short introduction to the MAXWALD rescue winches with cable guiding system. Often, only small things that need to be considered so that you can enjoy the winch for a long time. There are a few things to consider, especially with cable and cable winding. Attention, this video does not replace the user manual. Point 1. The winch. It is an electric drum winch. There are differences in traction power and rope spooling compared to capstan winches. For example, the specified pulling force only applies to the first rope layer and decreases with each subsequent one. And the user must ensure that the rope is always spooled proper under load. The MAXWALD cable guiding system is not a forced spooling device, but a rope distributor. A few tips on good cable winding follow in the next points. The winch is powered by a 24-volt DC motor. This means that the winch is not suitable for continuous operation. 4 to 5 pulling cycles are possible per hour. One pulling cycle is the pull under full load over the entire length of the cable. The drive runs via an automatic safety brake and a triple set of planets. The brake must not overheat under any circumstances. This could happen if the rope is not pulled out by hand. The winch is only approved for ground pulling and must not be used for maneuvering. The traction capacity is limited by an overload protection device, short ollie. If the attached load exceeds the maximum pulling capacity, the winch switches off. In this case, a red LED will flash on the bottom of the ollie. The ollie is located above the over plug of the cable remote control. Depending on the installation situation, the LED can also be on the invisible side. Press cable out for 3 seconds and it will be activated again. Depending on the winch, a fuse with 250 or 300 amps is installed. In addition, the engine of the winch has a thermal protection. In this case, a sensor measures the temperature and switches off in case of overheating. After a cooling time of 5 to 10 minutes, it switches on again automatically. Point 2. The freewheel lever. When the winch is not in use, the freewheel lever must always be in pull-out position. To do this, press the locking plate down and turn the lever 1/4 turn to the right. The unlock lever now points downwards. Unlocking under load is expressly prohibited. This could lead to damage to the winch and serious injuries. It can happen that the freewheel lever cannot be turned immediately. Then tap briefly on cable in or out of the cable remote control, or pull down about 5 centimeters of cable. Important, before pulling in, always set lever to pulling in position. To do this, press the safety plate down and turn the unlock lever 1/4 turn counterclockwise to the left. The lever is now in a horizontal position. Attention, the freewheel is only suitable for unwinding the wire rope by hand. Other technical data such as pulling values, energy consumption, can be found in the user manual. Point 3. The emergency stop. The winch is usually delivered with a triggered emergency stop. The power supply was interrupted by pressing the emergency stop and then brought to neutral position. To do this, the switch was turned 1/4 to the right, until the first audible click. In this case, the emergency stop moves about 1 centimeter outwards. This must be done after each use. Before use, the emergency stop must be activated. To activate, without pressure, turn 1/4 to the right. Important, without pressure. Now the emergency stop is active and the winch gets power and is therefore ready for use. Tip: spray the seal of the emergency stop every 2 weeks with silicone spray. This keeps the switch running smoothly and the seal does not become porous. Point 4. The cable. We only use galvanized special steel cables with a total length of 35 meters. At least 5 turns must remain on the drum. This means that about 33 meters of useful length are available. Important, the cable must be pulled out only by hand and if possible with even strength and speed. An abrupt stop leads to the drum running behind and thus to loose cable windings. This can damage the rope due to jamming and crushing. At the end of the useful length, the cable is marked with a red marking. Never pull out the cable over this marking, as this makes it possible to wind up the cable in the wrong direction. This could lead to brake failure and damage to the winch. And also, the cable could break loose and snap back under heavy load. It would be a great advantage for the rope winding to leave the entire first layer of rope on the drum. During use, care must be taken to ensure that the slack cable, this means, the loose cable, is always spooled with the guide rod and counterpull. The winch cable must not be used as a sling rope. Use suitable slings and accessories. The exact cable specifications can be found in the user manual. We explained the correct winding up of a new cable in point 7. Cable wear is highly dependent on the correct handling, the application situation, maintenance, cable winding and so on. Therefore, please follow our tips and the operating instructions. Point 5. The MAXWALD Cable Guiding System. This is a cable distributor, which winds up the cable properly under tension. Take note, only under load. That means either there is a load on the cable or you use the guide rod and cable tensioning device. During use, care must be taken to ensure that the slack cable, that means the loose cable, is always coiled up with the guide rod and counterpull. The pendulum distributes the cable, turn by turn, from one drum wall to the other. The 6 and feed rolls of the guiding device allow a maximum pulling angle of up to 45 degrees per side. The rope pressure plate keeps the cable compact on the drum. Attention, never use the guide rod and cable tensioner with load. The cable tensioning device and the guide rod are explained in detail in the next point. Point 6. The guide rod. This is inserted under the winch on the pendulum of the cable guiding device. In this way, the pendulum can be guided by hand and the cable can thus be wound up turn by turn. Especially important for the first layer. This is done in conjunction with the cable tensioning device. Attention, never use guide rod and cable tensioner with load. Point 7. The cable tensioning device. This device allows the cable to be coiled up properly without load. The cable should be completely unwound and coiled up again after each use. To be able to wind the cable properly, use the cable tensioner and the guide rod. A detailed description can be found in the operating instructions. Attention, never use guide rod and cable tensioner with load. Point 8. Winding up a new cable. When unwinding the cable, pay attention to the course of the cable and the direction of rotation of the winch drum. First, take off the front panel with MAXWALD lettering or the drum cover. Attention, if your vehicle has GSR2 equipment, the emergency brake assistant may have to be reparameterized after dismantling and winding up the cable. Only the vehicle manufacturer or authorized dealer is allowed to do this. Second, rotate the drum so that the fixing screw for the cable is facing forward. Third, lift the cable pressure plate with a mounting iron and fix it with, for example, a piece of wood or hammer handle. Fourth, place the cable along the entire length. Caution, do not take the cable directly from the bunch, because in this case, for example, loops can form and so damage the cable. Fifth, now push the end of the cable through the 6 rolls of the guiding device to the pendulum roller and from the back to the rope drum. Now pull the rope forward from behind over the rope drum and push it into the fixing hole, but not beyond it. Sixth, tighten the locking screw with about 16 to 20 Newton meters. Caution, do not over-tighten, otherwise the screw thread may be damaged. Seventh, now tighten the rope by hand by pulling it and removing the wood or hammer handle. Eighth, insert the guide rod on the pendulum of the guiding device. Ninth, insert the cable tensioner into the pulleys of the guiding device and make pressure on the cable, using the star screw. 10th, turn the freewheel lever to cable in. 11th, now start pulling and using the remote control or radio. At the same time, guide the cable with the guide rod in such a way that the cable lines up exactly turn by turn. Attention, never use guide rod and cable tensioner with load. Spool the cable up to about 1 meter in front of the winch or cable tensioning device. Fix the end hook to the holder and pull in the cable a few more centimeters if necessary. Consider reaction time from command to stop the winch. The holder for the end hook is not a load hook. 12th. Install the front panel with MAXWALD lettering or the drum cover on the winch. Attention, if your vehicle has GSR2 equipment, the emergency brake assistant may have to be reparameterized after dismantling and winding up the cable. Only the vehicle manufacturer or authorized dealer are allowed to do this. The most important points about the proper use of winches. First, the vehicle's engine is to run at a slightly higher speed due to alternator support of the battery. Second, always pull out the cable by hand. Third, always rewind the cable under load or with the cable tensioner and guide rod after each use. Fourth, the winch must be put into operation every 2 weeks to avoid damage, for example due to corrosion. Fifth, in wet conditions, the cover must be removed in the fire station or garage. The winch in use. Bring the vehicle in good position, pay attention to stability, use chocks if necessary and use parking brake. The vehicle's engine is to run at a slightly higher speed due to alternator support of the battery. Plug in remote control or radio. Activate emergency stop, 1/4 turn, to the right, without pressure. Insert the guide rod on the pendulum. Pull out the cable by hand to the load. Attach the load to the cable with suitable accessories. Set the freewheel lever to cable out. Pull in the slack rope by means of using the guide rod and counterpull until the load itself grips. Pull in the load. Secure load if necessary and take off the cable. The winch after use. Check the cable for damage and winding, rewind or change the cable if necessary. Use the guide rod and cable tensioner. Interrupt the power supply by pressing the emergency stop and then set it to neutral position. Set the freewheel lever to cable out position. Install the cover, caution in wet conditions. You find this as a sticker in the operating instructions, to fix in the cabin or near the winch. This video does not replace the user manual. We can also email operating instructions for MAXWALD winches and the operating instructions for the cable, just ask. By appointment, we offer training courses at our factory in Ohlsdorf. Don't forget the annual inspection of the winch. Are there any questions left? Please contact us.